Every yard, every hit, every second. It's earned out here. This game demands more than just skill. It demands fuel. The right fuel. Cause out here it's not just about how hard you work. It's about how long you keep going. When the game gets real, drink bottle still.
Welcome in. If you are dealing with a lot of snow for some reason in late March in Ontario, uh, it's okay. The summer's around the corner, but that also means that the OUA football schedule is ready to go, Connor. So we are back. We are here today to kind of break down each week who's playing, what are the big matchups to look out for, who's going to be on the bye week, who gets that dreaded week one bye, who gets the not always envious, but maybe it could be advantageous last week bye as well. So a lot of interesting matchups, storylines. We're kind of forecasting long range into the OUA season this year. But it's exciting that we have, dates and times and locations for all these games.
I can't believe it. I can't believe that it's 2026 and we're sitting here in March talking about the upcoming OUA football schedule. I'm excited. I'm very excited. I love the fact that we get to do this. And you talked about the dreaded week one bye. Not only is it sometimes dreaded for the team, but this year equally dreaded for us fans. The Western Mustangs, under the new regime of Michael Faulds, are gonna be hitting the bench, gonna be parked for week one of the OUA season this year. So fans are gonna have to wait to see that until week two. But let's run down the rest of the week one matchups here, or I should say all of the week one matchups here. Starting off with Carleton at York, Guelph at Laurier, Ottawa at Waterloo, Windsor at McMaster, and on the 30th, Queens is playing at your Toronto Varsity Blues, Wade. And of these games, of these week one matchups, which one are you looking at early on here?
Connor, you know what? The old four storyline with Queens and Toronto is always an interesting one. But for me, I really like this Guelph Laurier matchup, and for a couple reasons. For the Laurier side, this new look, now that we don't have Coach Faulds there anymore. Cal Wither, of course, transferring out, so there'll be another new quarterback in place, 3 in 3 years for the Golden Hawks. But for Guelph, it kind of feels like last year there was a lot of anticipation for what they could be, and they played some really close, really entertaining games, but just couldn't, kick their way through. And then, of course, they find themselves in the playoffs in that exciting spot against the Western Mustangs. So for this, Guelph team and the veteran leadership that they're going to have and the skill players, I think there's a lot of anticipation. I think for Laurie, it's a lot of what does this look like with so much changeover, despite retaining both your coordinators and a lot of your recruits?
Similar teams to kick off this season here in 2026 as last year, as it was a Laurier Guelph game, a very good Laurier Guelph game in what was an awesome week one in 2025, but certainly some different faces on one of those sidelines there in Laurier. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to highlight. I'm expecting a good ball game there too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
As we look into week two, Connor, Queen's the only team getting the week off as they kind of get that bye week as kids start to roll into school. The games, though, got some good matchups. Of course, our matchup between alumni, Toronto heading to the nation's capital to take on the Ottawa GGs, Waterloo against Carleton, York at Western for Michael Falls' first game, McMaster going to the Guelph Griffins, and Laurier traveling to the end of the road to the Windsor Lancers.
Yeah, a couple good matchups here in this week two spot. But Wade, I mean, we got to talk about Western York, right? This is the debut of Michael Faulds taking over for Greg Marshall as the head coach of the storied Western Mustangs football program. And we know the history with Faulds there. And we know that this is going to be an exciting, electric team. I'm looking forward to seeing what Western's going to look like, what type of football team we're going to see under Michael Faulds with Western, but I'm also looking forward to seeing, how much is it going to be a blend of, what we think and know Western to be and this new schematic system that Faulds is going to bring in because Because it's not like they really played the same system, same schematics. So I'm really curious to see, what sort of Western Michael Folds is going to roll out. And I'm not expecting it to be any sort of dramatic change or dramatic difference, but I am expecting some Michael Folds wrinkles in this playbook for sure.
Of note here, Connor, it is also a night game. I believe that is Frosh Week, so the stadium will be packed, I'm guessing, in London. The interesting thing for me with this Western team in their first week and having that week one bye, don't forget there's a lot of changeover with this roster, specifically at the quarterback spot where we no longer have Evan Hillock. He's gone to play over in Europe, in Pro League there. But Ben Castleman, Jerome Rancor, a couple of recruits. So they've got a lot of different options that are going to be fighting for a spot in camp if Jerome Rancor is even back. Um, but it'll be interesting to see who takes the reins of this Western offense, how much they lean on that run game early, and let some of these young playmakers that they're recruiting in Ontario and the rest of Canada kind of make their statement early in the season.
All right, let's dive into week 3. Toronto on the bye week this week, and we'll start it off in the Limestone City. The Queens Gales hosting the Waterloo Warriors in a 5 p.m. matchup. Guelph afternoon game hosting the Carleton Ravens. York hosting the McMaster Marauders. Laurier is going to host the Ottawa GGs, and Windsor hosting the Western Mustangs in their first road trip of the season.
I really like this Ottawa Laurier matchup, Connor. I know that these two offenses are going to look different than what they have in the past, but it's two programs that have traditionally had very high functioning offenses, high level quarterback play, good run games, good O lines. Uh, that to me is the matchup that is going to be really interesting. But I think we all have to lean into the Western Windsor matchup with the rivalry that those teams have kind of had over the last few years. Windsor with this tough gridiron mentality, end of the road location. It's probably the easiest road trip to go to the end of the road coming from London, but Western going to be, playing York and then going right into this highly anticipated matchup between two of the top flight teams in the OUA.
Yeah, that's I am really looking forward to the Windsor Western game here. They were so close for those Windsor Lancers in almost getting to the Yates Cup final last year, dropping the semifinal matchup to Queens. But Windsor, man, they're doing some really good things with that program. They're steadily building, steadily developing, and that is a nasty, gritty, tooth and nail, scrap and claw type of team. So I think that's going to be a really, really good ball game there in the 1 p.m. spot in week 3 among some other really good football matchups.
All right, let's speed into week four. York gets the bye week. We've got Guelph at Ottawa, Queens at Carleton, Western at Toronto, Laurier at McMaster, and Windsor at the Waterloo Warriors. Connor, who is your key matchup in this one?
No biases here. This is just a really fun football game. I'm going with the Ottawa GGs, my alma mater, against the Guelph Griffins. And this is going to be a bit of a tough stretch for Ottawa. So not only am I interested in this game specifically, I'm interested in the week prior and the week coming for Ottawa surrounding this one too. Before this, they're going to have to take on the Laurier Golden Hawks at home in the Kitchener-Waterloo region. That's going to be a tough battle, tough road trip for Ottawa. They do turn around and get a home game, but equally tough opponent in Guelph. We did see Guelph have their hiccups last year, but we also saw Guelph have their flashes. And I think that this is going to be a more poised team, a team that has learned, and a team that's coming out with a chip on their shoulder a little bit. So I think that's going to be a pretty gritty matchup for Ottawa. In the following week, they're heading up the 401, heading down to Limestone City to take on the Queens Gales before they're going into the Panda Week. So that is a run of 4 games. You have 3 tough battles before you got to go play in the beast that is the Panda game. So I'm looking to see how they're going to handle all of that within that stretch.
The rest of the games in week five, Connor, we've got Mac, Western, Toronto, Windsor, Waterloo, Guelph, and York Laurier. Carleton on the bye then. I think you nailed it. Ottawa Queens going to be, I think, one of the big matchups there. Just two physical teams that have played well against each other. Obviously, familiar opponents with the COVID year and the East-West divide that we had for a few seasons in the OUA. These two teams and two coaching staffs saw each other a lot. It's very tough to find new wrinkles and be creative when you're playing a team that's, that closely related and I guess keen on what some of your tendencies are. So it'll be interesting to see coaching wise how those two staffs kind of fold everything around and make things look different, even if it's the same system.
We usually get a good game when those two teams match up. It's usually some type of fun clash, so I will be looking forward to that one. Let's get into rivalry week here though, Wade. Week 6 on the OUA season. McMaster on the bye week. We have Guelph at Toronto. We have Queens at Western. We have the Battle of Waterloo with the Warriors hosting the Golden Hawks. We have Windsor hosting the York Lions, and then on the Sunday at 12 p.m., Sunday at noon, the feature game, the Panda game, coming to you live from TD Place in downtown Ottawa. Man, did we ever get a good game last year? Heartbreaker for the Ottawa GGs, but boy, oh boy, is that going to be a fun one. That's one that I always circle on the calendar. I think most OUA fans do.
Yeah, and for me, Connor, there's no real big time game in this one, right? You got the Queens Western, probably the greatest rivalry historically in the OUA. Carleton Ottawa, probably the most anticipated, highly attended game in maybe outside of Laval, maybe U Sports for the year. And then the Battle of Waterloo, which always has some fireworks, has been kind of one-sided the last couple of years. But both of these teams still come out and fight, and the familiarity, like we mentioned with Ottawa and Queens is even more so with these two teams that share fields and practice times and workout spaces for the calendar year. So, three really high caliber games, highly anticipated matchups and rivalries before we move into that week 7 where, you know, we've got another slugfest in Windsor Queens. So, Queens kind of gets, where Ottawa had that tough stretch. Queens ends up with that going Ottawa, Western, Windsor and then having Guelph towards the end of the year off of their bye week. So uh, Queens, Windsor, Western Carleton, Toronto Mac, York, Ottawa is that week 7 Thanksgiving-ish slate. Um, I know that Queens Windsor going to be a slugfest, drag them out, knock them out kind of fight. Excited for that one. That's going to have some big playoff implications as we kind of forecast through this year. But let's move on to week 8, 9, and get out of here with the playoff schedule.
Alrighty, week 8. Windsor is the team on the bye in this one. We have the Laurier Golden Hawks hosting Carleton. Guelph is going to be traveling down to Queens. Waterloo hosting the McMaster Marauders. Western, two long road trips back to back. So the week prior, they're going to Carleton to take on the Ravens. Then they got to turn around this week and go to Ottawa and take on the GGs. Then you have York and Toronto in the Red Blue Bowl battling it out in the final 1 p.m. game of that week. But I want to go back to this Western Ottawa game. I think it's going to be a really fantastic ball game. But I do think that there's a potential for a little bit of a trap game here for Ottawa. A little bit of a road trap advantage, I think, for the GGs. Yes, Western is Western. They're a fantastic football team. These are the things that good football teams overcome. But after two straight weeks of home games, you end that homestand with a tough battle against the Queens Gales. Then you got to get on the 401 and go all the way to the other end of it to take on Carleton before turning around and going all the way to the other end again to take on Ottawa in back-to-back weekends. So I do think that there's potential here for Western to maybe be a little bit sick of getting on a bus and going to the other end of the 401.
Yeah, and the other big thing here, Connor, is we saw Windsor do this last year where they had consecutive big time road trips. They ended up having a really good stretch of games and coming out with wins in those big spots, but not every team is able to do that. Obviously, Windsor more used to it with their, usual long road trips, but going up to Ottawa twice in a year is never fun for those Western Ontario teams. The final week, Connor, big playoff implications, hopefully. We got Windsor at Guelph, Western hosting Laurier, York Waterloo, Toronto Carleton, and Queens Mac. Ottawa gets that last week bye, which, could end their season early or give them an extra break going into the playoffs. Um, I always don't like to forecast week nine like big matchups because this could be like Queens Mac could be for some seeding like it was last year. Toronto Carlton could be for who sneaks into the playoffs as the seventh seed. So um, it's a good slate of games in that last week. Of course,
Hmm.
everything's 1 p.m. start so that we can't be gaming and dressing guys and sitting guys and using our 55 man rosters to kind of toy with teams. But after that, it's some spook season football with Halloween quarterfinals. Then the semifinals the week after, and November 14th, the Yates Cup will be held at the highest remaining seed of all 11 teams. So we are all officially on countdown watch. We are
Oof.
under 8 months away from the Yates Cup, Connor. So it's
Super
a
excited. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat here before we get out of here though. Speaking of the Yates Cup, do you have any way too early Yates Cup predictions? We don't normally do this one, but you know, why not? Why not? Spirit of March Madness. Let's get a little crazy here.
gonna sound like a big homer here, Connor. The Queens Gales were victorious last year at Laurier. I feel like this year, Alex Freakin looks like he might be coming back. If they get one of Justin Pace or Nick Henning, the two guys that are going to be highly thought after or sought after in the CFL draft, if they get one of those two guys back, I think this is a Queens Golden Gales repeat year. Uh, but be careful. There's a man in purple and white who is familiar with playing those big time moments in Michael Fald. So Queens obviously my homer pick. They just have so many guys back, so much young talent last year that made big impact plays for them, like Oliver Jackson, Steve Capella. Um, those guys that are going to be back and taking that extra year of growth and development with Jordan Skolochuk as their new strength conditioning coach. I think if you're familiar with AUS football, you know the amount of effort and work that guy puts in. So I just feel like Queen's team speed, size, experience now going to that national semifinal. Um, I think they're ready to kind of have a run here with Vreekin if he is indeed back.
Yeah, I think the formula's there. There's something brewing. I think there's certainly high potential for Queens to come back in and go repeat. But I'm gonna change it up here. I'm gonna go a little bit different than you for my way too early prediction here. I'm gonna go Western Windsor in the Yates Cup,
Ooh.
with Western coming out on top in Michael Falls' first year as the Western Mustangs head coach. And I did that purely because I love the storyline and we're 8 months out, so we can't make any real sort of predictions.
Well, we'll see who gets the quarterback nod at Western. We'll see how all these teams shake out. Of course, injuries and health will be a big factor going down the stretch, but there will be more coming up as we get closer to the season. Of course, the previews will be in August. But for now, Connor O'Neill, Wade Zanketta, CFP, welcome back to OUA football as we kind of get an early look at this year's schedule.